Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where we take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either October 31st or November 1st, 2023. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Happy Halloween to everybody out there. I hope you have a safe and fun celebration of this spooky time of year. There's a lot of things I want to tell you about, so let's not hesitate. Let's start off first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue number 1. And the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is yes. Yes, it was. It delivered on everything I thought it would deliver on. It was cute. It was fun. It was dark. It was disturbing, which it was a really, really entertaining read, and it was well executed. So absolutely, it was a worthy and worthwhile just one book pick of the week. Now, the real test for me right now of whether or not something is great or just like super fantastic is whether or not I decide I'm going to keep buying it past issue number 1. And it's not even so much about the expense of the comic books. It's really about the space that they're taking up in my life. I just do not have space for comic books anymore. So I really have to love something like love to buy it as an ongoing. And even though Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees was really great, I am not going to buy issue number 2 and beyond. It almost got me, just not quite. I may pick it up in trade at some point down the line because I do think it is going to be a good read. But as far as the individual issues, I don't think I'm going to do it. If you read Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees issue number 1, I'd like to know your thoughts about it down in the comments. Let's go ahead now and move forward and take a look at the books that are coming out this upcoming week. There's a decent amount of them. I'm going to try to move through them as quickly as possible. The first one I want to tell you about is a new book. It is called A Haunting on Mars, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series from Scout Comics. Basically, as you can tell from the cover of this A cover, it's kind of got a Tales from the Crypt horror vibe, but it takes place in space and is potentially very gory. If a space horror, gory thing, anthology stories type book interests you this week, and I could see how it would, given it is Halloween week, maybe consider picking this book up. The next book I want to let you know about is another new book. It is called Supergirl Special, issue number 1. It's a one-shot from DC. Basically, this is a Supergirl special one-shot about Supergirl. She's coming to terms with her place in a world where Power Girl is also there, and they're very similar. So she's like, well, Power Girl's kind of handling things. What am I going to do? So she's breaking out on her own and figuring things out for herself. If you're a Supergirl fan, and I think Supergirl's pretty cool, actually, you might consider picking this up this week. Another new book that's coming out this week is The Return of Superman, 30th Anniversary Special, issue number 1. It's another one-shot from DC. 30 years ago, they killed Superman. I remember it being a massive deal. They were talking about it on the news. Everybody was going nuts because they were going to kill Superman. People went and bought hundreds of copies of this book thinking that they would retire off of it. And even at 16 years old, I knew I'm going to buy one to read and I'm going to buy one to collect, but I'm not going to go all in on this because everybody else is going to, and it'll therefore have no value. And that's exactly basically what happened. But it was an interesting story. It was an entertaining story. And through the process of Superman dying, these 4 other Supermen emerged. And this is a collection of stories told by the original writers and artists from that time about those 4 Supermen that emerged in the wake of Superman's death. Basically, if you want more Death of Superman 30 years later, here you go. The next book I want to tell you about is a newish kind of book. It's Batman, Catwoman, The Gotham War, Scorched Earth, issue number 1. It's a one-shot, as it says here on the A cover. This is the shocking conclusion to the Gotham War. I am picking this up this week because I am a subscriber to the current Batman run written by Chip Zdarsky, which I think is really, really good. So I've been following this Gotham War storyline, both in the Batman comics and the Catwoman comics. It's been entertaining and interesting. You know, Batman's kind of battling his own inner demon, which is pretty cool. This is allegedly the end of the Gotham War storyline, but I know that there are going to be things from it that are going to carry into the future of the Batman title. So if you've been reading the Gotham War, you're going to pick this up, and if you haven't been reading the Gotham War, you're not going to care. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom Special. Issue number 1, once again, another one-shot from DC this week. There's a lot of them. Anybody with eyes can basically tell that this is a comic book that's being put on the shelves so that people have a Aquaman comic book to pick up if they go see the Aquaman movie and decide that they want more, and they go to a local comic shop to find it. It's my understanding, and I may be wrong about this, that the stories in this book actually bridge Aquaman 1 to Aquaman 2 in a way. So I don't know if it's something that should be read before seeing Aquaman 2, ideally. Maybe do a little more research to confirm that for yourself. But this is for Aquaman fans. This is for fans of the Aquaman movie. If you fall in those camps, maybe you consider picking this up this week. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Unnatural Order, issue number 1 from Vault Comics. I'll start off by telling you about the writer, who is Chris Yost. He is the co-creator of X-23. He also wrote hundreds of X-Men issues. He wrote Thor Ragnarok, which is fantastic. He's written episodes of The Mandalorian and many, many other things. And he's returning to comic books with this. Now, he is sounds like a fantastic writer with a fantastic pedigree, but the plot of this is a little weird. There's a character called the Druid who has been in prison for a long time, and then after a certain amount of time, he's released, and he's a bad man, but there's a badder something out there in the world, and it sounds like it's going to be about the conflict between this bad man and the badder entity. That could be cool. That could be entertaining. It could also be kind of meh. But I'm optimistic about it a bit because of the strength of the writer. But I'm not going to pick it up. But if the writer's background or if the concept is interesting to you, maybe you will. The next book I want to let you know about is another new book. It is called Red Light, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from AWA. This book is about a character named Lacey, who is an AI sex worker in a futuristic red light district. So she's a robot sex worker. She comes across this other character named Natalie, who is an orphaned girl. And Lacey starts taking care of Natalie. Through that process, they decide, you know what? We can do better. And they decide to try to escape the red light district. But of course, it's not going to be as easily done as it is said. And that's where the conflict lies. That's what the story lies. This actually sounds pretty interesting to me, and I'm optimistic that the art in it might actually be pretty cool. I almost considered making this my pick of the week. It got edged out just slightly by something else, but this looks like it could be pretty cool. So I may even pick this up off the shelf, flip it through it, and if it interests me enough, scoop it up. But yeah, this has a lot going for it, and I recommend it to everyone out there. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Dying Days, issue number 1 from Red 5 Comics. I'm telling you about it because it's interesting, but also because the description is very short and very helpful. It says, it's the ultimate race against time. When the aging starts, people are aging at a rapid rate. Can the cause and solution be found before it's too late? Okay, everybody's aging super fast. They need to find a solution to that before everybody's just simply dead. That's an entertaining idea. That could be a cool read. I'm putting it on your radar. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Blood Commandment, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Image Comics. This is about a single father and his son who live out in the woods, kind of like as survivalists. The son, however, of course, naturally has lots of questions about why and about his father's past, and his dad's not so interested in sharing this information. In addition, he's not so interested in sharing with his son why they never leave the valley before sundown. This, to me, implies that there's some kind of, vampire or demon or some kind of supernatural something taking place in this world as well that they need to protect themselves from. Okay. All right. I have to admit, it does sound a little convoluted. This is from Szymon Kredinsky, I think Kudransky. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this. This gentleman wrote something epic, which was something that was a just one book pick of mine a long time ago, a year ago or something like that. The art in it was fantastic. So I think that the art might be worth checking out if you are an art-focused enjoyer of comic books. The story, though, seems a little bit like, cliche horror, but who knows? It could be executed very well and worth checking out. So I put it on your radar. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Almost Dead, issue number 1 from Ablaze Publishing. I basically don't need to say much about this. As you can tell by the cover, it's basically about zombies. It's a zombie apocalypse. They don't use the word zombies, but it's functionally what's happening here. If you want a zombie-type survival story this Halloween week, maybe consider checking out Almost Dead. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called White Widow, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Well, Yelena Belova, also known as White Widow, returns and has now her own ongoing series at Marvel Comics. Now, she's basically Black Widow, but I believe she maybe goes a little farther than Black Widow does. She might be a little bit more ruthless than Black Widow is. So if you want maybe an amped up Black Widow, I believe that is what White Widow is going to deliver. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is Ultimate Universe, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Let me read the short description very quickly. The Spoils of Victory. After the world-shaking conclusion of Ultimate Invasion, a new team of heroes bands together to save the future. From mastermind Jonathan Hickman and superstar artist Stefano Caselli, don't miss out on this foundational issue for the new line of Ultimate Comics. Yes, Marvel's bringing back Ultimate Comics. Apparently there's going to be a lot of that going on at the end of this year and into next year. So if the return of the Ultimate Universe is interesting to you and something you plan on following in the Marvel Comics universe, you probably want to start here with this Ultimate Universe, issue number 1. The next book I want to tell you about is Star Wars, issue number 40 from Marvel Comics. I mentioned this for one reason and one reason only, because I'm buying it. When I'm buying a book, I tell you about it. So you hear about Star Wars every time it comes out because I've been buying it since issue number 1. I like it. So I tell you about it every time I get it. There you go. The next book I want to tell you about is a new book. It is called Spider-Boy, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. The reaction to Spider-Boy has been very interesting. There's been a lot of like, oh, this is stupid. Oh, nobody cares. Oh, but then like other people are like, oh, this is the biggest new thing since Miles Morales. I do think that there's room in the Spider-Man universe for Spider-Boy. It's interesting to me that Marvel is kind of like all in on the push for Spider-Boy. I mean, first we got all these Spider-Boy stories, and now, of course, Spider-Man's getting his own ongoing. I have not read any of the Spider-Boy stuff personally, so I don't know if he's a good character and worth checking out and sticking with. But, you know, it is something different oddly enough, in a weird way, in an already crowded Spider-Verse space. So I think it could be good, or it could be not so good. It's from writer Dan Slott, so it has potential there. So if you're Spider-Boy curious, this might be a good book to pick up this week. My next honorable mention is a new book called The Space Between, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Boom Studios. This is a kind of cool and interesting one. There is a spaceship that is taking a journey through space, obviously, and it is going to take multiple generations because space is big, and you can only go so fast. It's going to take multiple generations of humanity living on this ship in order to get to its destination. And the ship also has a very strict kind of caste system, like a class system. Lower class people are confined to one area, upper class people are confined to another area. Well, in this first story, two people from different classes meet up, and it's about that, basically. And I think they kind of fall for each other. And then something I also want to mention is that each issue of this 4-issue limited series takes place with another generation of people living on this ship as it's traveling. So this first one is these 2 people in this generation. The next one will be with a completely different cast of characters, potentially some of them the sons and daughters of ones from previous issues. This sounds like it could be interesting. It's an opportunity to tell new and different stories in a kind of unique environment over a 4-issue limited series. I think this could be fun. I think this could be entertaining. I think this could be enjoyable, and I think this could be worth checking out. All right, that's all of the honorable mentions. That brings us to the one book that I would buy this week if I could buy just one book, and that book is Canary, issue number 1 from Dark Horse. Here's the description. In 1891, a mine collapsed into itself. What was the dark substance found 666 feet underground? Blending modern horror, historical fact, and Western lore, Scott Snyder and Dan Panosian have created a uniquely terrifying thriller with Canary. During the final days of the gold rush, one mining company in Colorado pulled up radioactive uranium, and then the mine collapsed in on itself. Legends sprung up about the mine being cursed or even haunted. Now the frontier is closed. The gold and silver mines have dried up. The country is becoming civilized. And yet, in one stretch of the Rocky Mountains, a terrifying new kind of violence is suddenly emerging. Random killings, people going mad and murdering neighbors and classmates without real cause. When a schoolboy kills his teacher with a hatchet, a famous federal marshal named Azrael William Holt is called in to investigate the killings. This is interesting. This is interesting to me. Some kind of evil is lurking in this, frontier town of the late 19th century, early 20th century, causing people like children to kill their teachers with hatchets. And this marshal shows up to try to figure it out, but obviously something dark and evil is sourced from this collapsed mine that they talk about in the description. That sounds like it could be an engaging and entertaining and creepy horror story, but I will be fully honest with you. The main reason why I'm interested in this book this week is Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder, I am a fan of. I think he's really, really good. When he does something new, I am interested in checking it out. Now, I haven't loved everything I've read from Scott Snyder. It's always been solid, but not necessarily loved. So I don't know if I'm going to love this or not. But I'm going to be quite honest with you. This was a week where the 2 books that I was automatically pulling, which is the Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War Scorched Earth, issue number 1, and Star Wars 40, neither of those were going to be my just one book pick of the week. So I was like, either I'm not going to have a pick or I'm going to have to find something. And this one just barely made the cut to be a book that I want to go, I want to buy, I want to pick up, and I want to read, and I want to see if it's any good. So because of my curiosity in it, because it's from Scott Snyder and Dan Panosian, both who are really, really solid comic book creators, These are the reasons why I've gone ahead and decided to make Canary issue number 1 my just one book pick for this week. Okay, that's it. It's another long video. I'm sorry there's so many books to talk about, but I want you to know what's going on, so here you go. If you like this video and you like what the information in this video has provided you, likes are very much appreciated by me, so I would invite you to go ahead and hit the like button, and if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so right now. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.